A Ukrainian Su-27 takes the old airframe into a new war. Under its wings sit American smart bombs, fixed to a Soviet jet by a home-built rack. This is not a museum stunt. It is a live test of ideas. Fly low, stay hidden, and hit hard before the radars wake up. The pilot rides rough air a few hundred feet above the ground. Fuel burns faster, hands shake, and the tablet on the console pushes fresh coordinates into the jet. Every second counts because the air picture can change in a heartbeat. Long-range eyes are searching, short-range claws are waiting, and the space between them is a narrow window. Electronic noise tries to blind the weapons. Guidance systems fight to keep a clean track. If the timing is right, small bombs can beat big defenses. If it is wrong, the sky closes and the mission dies. This story is not about one airplane only. It is about how modern war rewards clean integration, strict discipline, and smart risk. Watch the climb, the release, and the dive. The next moves will show whether ingenuity can outrun a wall of missiles. Ukraine's Su-27 turns a Soviet airframe into a precision striker by carrying 4 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs on a BRU-61 rack with custom adapters. The mount ties American pylons to Russian hardpoints, while a home-built wiring harness translates arming and release signals. A cockpit tablet feeds GPS and GLONASS coordinates to the pilot, who can load target points and verify attack lines in real time. This mix gives the jet standoff reach and small circular error, so hardened sights can be hit from outside the worst threat zones. The trade-off is real because any mismatch in connectors, logic, or power can show up under stress. Integration solves the how to carry and cue problem, yet it also creates a checklist that must be perfect before takeoff. Workshop ingenuity makes the strike possible, but the flight profile decides whether that ingenuity survives contact. That is why the technical fix in the hangar is only half the story, as the other half plays out at treetop height. Low-level flight at roughly 500 feet keeps the jet under the radar horizon, and terrain masking turns hills and buildings into a shield. Flying this close to the ground also narrows the viewing angles for search radars and lowers the jet's apparent signature. The cost comes in rough air, higher aerodynamic loads, and a cockpit that never stops moving. 4 compact bombs still add drag and weight, so fuel burn climbs faster than planned and the margin to climb shrinks. When the tanks empty quicker, the window for a pop-up becomes short, and the release must be timed with discipline. Hands are busy because the pilot must hold altitude, watch speed, and keep a clean track through valleys and ridgelines. One mistake at low level can undo an hour of planning, while one clean pass can open the door for a safe exit. This shrinking margin sets the size of the pop-up window and the room for a clean release. Mechanical and electrical risks do not vanish in the air, and vibrations can expose them in seconds. Grounding faults, loose contacts, or a finicky arming circuit may appear as a flicker on the panel right before the attack. The pilot needs every cue to be stable because the jet will climb only once, and that climb makes the aircraft visible to long-range eyes. A tablet can hold the route, update coordinates, and flag drift, yet low altitude leaves little time to correct a moving point. Crews therefore plan to refine the solution in smoother air during the pop-up, when the computer can settle and compute release lines. That plan depends on a tight ladder of speed, height, and distance, and even small delays can break that ladder. Precision is not only in the weapon because precision also lives in the way the jet enters and exits the firing lane. All of this pushes the aircraft toward a brief, high-risk climb where timing matters more than thrust. Put together, this integration gives precision at range while low-level ingress buys survival, and the two create a narrow envelope that rewards clean execution. Success rests on fuel discipline, crisp altitude control, and a release that happens inside a few heartbeats. Failure begins with a late climb, a noisy panel light, or a course correction that comes one valley too soon. The method works because it bends physics and procedures in the pilot's favor, yet it only works while the radar picture stays fractured. What follows will test that fracture, as long-range sensors reach over the hills and terrain masking becomes the last cover before the climb. These limits lead directly into the contest between search radars and the ground itself, where the first detection can decide the rest of the mission. Russian long-range sensors set the pace of the fight because the search set finds and the fire control set kills. The 96L6E scans wide volumes and flags a contact, while the 92N6E tightens the track for a shot. Line of sight rules everything, since a hill, a tree line, or simple curvature can hide a low jet. Terrain masking turns ridges into cover and valleys into corridors, yet each crest can flash a brief return. Those flashes build the first clues in the network, so the pop-up must be timed like a countdown. In this geometry, altitude buys weapon range, but altitude also buys visibility to the battery. Radar horizon explains why low-level works, because the beam cannot bend around the Earth. A jet that skims the ground forces the sensor to look through clutter, and clutter ruins clean tracks. Search arrays still paint the sky with power, yet their glimpse is short when a pilot stays under the cut. The picture changes as soon as the climb begins, since the aircraft rises into a clear, cold slice of air. What was intermittent becomes stable, and a stable return becomes a track file that can cue a missile unit. This is why the climb must start late, rise fast, and end as soon as the weapon computer has a solution. Handoff is the danger point, because the cue from search moves to a narrow beam that measures for a shot. Fire control needs quality, aspect, and time. And time is counted in tens of seconds, not minutes. Pilots use speed gates and headings to spoil Doppler look, while a shallow bank can shear the return. These tricks save moments, but moments are the currency that buys survival in an integrated defense. The window opens when terrain still masks part of the route and closes when the beam locks hard enough to guide. In that squeeze, the aircraft must reach release height, drop clean, and drive back down before the gate slams. Overlapping coverage reduces mistakes, because elevated masts and dispersed sensors shrink dead ground. A battery can receive hints from other nodes, and fused tracks can survive a short loss of contact. Weather can help or hurt, since ducting may carry energy farther while heavy ground clutter cuts it short. Maps matter as much as manuals, because a shallow valley may hide nothing and a deep cut may hide a squadron. Route design becomes a weapon, as planners stitch together folds of land to keep the sky blind a little longer. When the route is right, the climb happens at the only place where the beam arrives one breath too late. The lesson is simple but harsh, because geometry decides long before a missile leaves the rail. Terrain buys privacy, yet privacy fades fast when the jet rises into the clean layer above the ridge. Long-range eyes punish lazy climbs and reward crisp timing, so discipline replaces luck in the firing lane. A short ascent, a steady wings-level moment, and a hard break back down can keep the track from maturing. That discipline sets up the next contest, where electronic tools try to steal a few more seconds from the network. What follows is the duel over jamming, deception, and warning cues that can stretch the window before the shot. The Su-27's first shield is awareness, but its SPO-15 warning receiver is from another era. It tells the pilot that energy is on the jet, yet it rarely says which threat type is staring or how tight the beam is. A chirp can mean a casual scan, while a solid tone may signal a hard track, and the gap between those states can be only seconds. The display gives bearing cues but little about altitude or range, so the pilot builds a mental map from fragments. That is workable at low level, though it leaves little confidence when the climb begins and the picture clears for the enemy. Because the data is thin, the crew plans to win time, not certainty, and time is the only currency that matters before a shot. This need for seconds pushes tactics that disrupt the track long enough to reach a clean release window. Chaff buys one slice of delay, since a well-timed burst fills the beam with bright false targets and raises the noise floor. It works best when paired with a maneuver, because a straight path lets the computer sort echoes faster than a weaving jet. A beam break turns the airplane 90 degrees to the radar and cuts relative speed inside the Doppler gate. All of this must fit inside a few heartbeats at the top of the pop-up, when the bomb computer needs steady wings for a clean solution. The art is to be predictable for the weapon, but unpredictable for the sensor, and that balance sets up the next control problem. The BRU-61 rack and 4 SDBS move the center of gravity and add drag, so fly-by-wire has more work to do. The system trims out the shift, yet the jet still feels heavier in pitch and a bit stubborn in roll under buffet. Vibration can shake a weak connector or a finicky arming circuit, and a flicker at the panel becomes a hard choice at release. Separation safety needs wings level and a stable rate, but IADS pressure tempts a hurried drop that trades safety for speed. This is where discipline matters most, since one rushed input can turn engineering risk into tactical failure. Those control limits frame what electronic tools must cover, because the airframe cannot carry the whole fight alone. The ECM pod adds another layer by pouring noise into likely bands and trying to desynchronize the enemy's picture. Noise jamming can mask a weak return, and spot jamming can harass a specific threat, yet modern arrays adapt faster than old playbooks. Agile radars hop frequencies, shape waveforms, and run track while scan, so a blunt barrage rarely blinds them for long. Deception demands digital memory techniques to forge false range or angle, but this jet's kit is closer to classic noise than crisp replicas. Integrated defenses also fuse inputs from several nodes, and a stable cue from one sensor can rescue a fading track at another. In this duel, EW does not erase the threat. It stretches the clock and steals enough moments to finish the firing sequence. Those stolen moments pass to the weapons, where guidance must ride through jamming and keep the glide true toward the target. This handoff moves the contest from the jet's defenses to the bomb's brain, and that is where the next battle will be decided. GBU-39 flies on a blend of satellite fixes and an inertial unit, so guidance keeps working even when the sky turns noisy. GTEL-type jammers flood the GPS bands and raise the noise floor, so the receiver flags bad data and shifts weight to the gyros and accelerometers. Drift then grows with distance because inertial math never rests, and small errors add up with every second of glide. Anti-jam features help by shaping antenna patterns and rejecting obvious interference, yet no filter can invent truth from broken signals. Standoff range is the advantage, but range also stretches the time that drift can expand, so accuracy becomes a race against the clock. This is why the bomb trusts INS when it must, but hunts for clean updates whenever the spectrum opens, because fresh truth resets the path. When a clean window returns, a Kalman-style filter fuses the last good fix with the inertial estimate and throws out readings that do not match physics. It checks speed, heading, and expected turn rates, then pulls the aim point back toward the target if the numbers agree. That fusion trims error without wild swings, since sharp inputs waste energy and can overshoot a narrow roofline. Diamondback wings give lift for a long glide, but winds push the planform sideways, and gusts can shear the track in a heartbeat. Actuators work within deflection limits, so control surfaces must correct early and often rather than late and large. Each small correction saves meters at impact, and meters decide whether a shaped nose enters a stairwell or a wall. The last stretch is the hardest because guidance meets weather, jamming, and time pressure at once. Low altitude shortens time to go, so any final satellite update has more weight and the filter locks the solution if it is clean. The bomb keeps a steady attitude to hold glide ratio, then shapes the approach angle for penetration and a timed fuse inside the structure. A tight track protects circular error, while a calm wing keeps separation distance between weapons that share the same route. Jammers may still shout from the ground, but a firm solution near the end can carry the weapon through the noise and into the set aim point. Those last meters lead straight into the terminal problem, where short-range defenses and hard target effects will decide what survives the final second. Short-range air defense loses the first seconds because surprise steals setup time. Pantsir S-1 must power its radar, align fire control, and sort tracks before it can shoot. Small-diameter bombs present a tiny radar cross-section and move fast on a shallow glide, so discrimination takes longer than manuals suggest. Missiles also carry a minimum arming distance, which cuts their value once the weapon is already close. Guns fire thick streams, yet radar-guided lead struggles when four compact shapes sit tight together and cross inside narrow angles. Geometry hurts the defender because the dead zone grows around the launcher, and a late cue pushes the intercept point behind the target's path. A short burst of electronic noise or a brief maneuver by the delivery jet can further delay a clean solution. By the time the track matures, the window is thin, the angles are poor, and the safest choice may be to hold fire to protect nearby troops. That kinematic squeeze moves the outcome from air defense math to terminal effects inside the buildings. GBU-39 carries about 36 pounds of AFX 757 and uses a timed fuse to detonate after penetration. A hardened steel nose pierces roofing and slabs. Then the charge releases a sharp overpressure wave inside confined rooms. Load paths fail first near the impact line, secondary walls crack, and stairwells become channels that spread the shock through floors. If two weapons arrive within seconds, overlapping pulses can multiply damage and bring a rapid local collapse. Concrete spalls, rebar yields, and dust overpressure cuts visibility for any survivors who try to organize a response. These effects match the design goal. Defeat protected spaces with a small, precise package while limiting wide-area blast. The key variable is aim point discipline, because a meter of error can shift the failure mode from core shear to partial damage. As the smoke clears, the tactical story returns to the larger network, where battle damage reports and satellite shots will confirm what the strike achieved. Victory in this clash of an aging Su-27, a compact smart bomb, and a layered air defense rests on timing, discipline, and clean integration rather than size or age. When the jet holds a steady low track, pops up at the right ridge, and releases on a stable line, even a heavy network can be forced into reaction. When the climb is late or the queue is dirty, the window closes and the defense regains control. Modern war rewards crews who manage fuel, altitude, and geometry with the same care they give to guidance code. A small error in navigation or a rushed panel decision can flip the outcome in one heartbeat. A crisp pop-up, a quiet wings-level moment, and a hard return to cover can carry the strike past sensors that should have won on paper. These are not tricks. They are habits built by training and checked by data. The proof will appear in public signals that speak before press releases do. Watch NOTAM and NAVWARN patterns for unusual blocks that align with expected flight lanes. Track any reshuffle of Tor and Pantsir around key sites, and note new mobile masts. Follow reports of stronger electronic activity that suggest fresh jamming or counter-jamming in the sector. Compare satellite images for blast patterns and roof failures that match the aim points. The side that shortens the detect-decide-engage loop by a few seconds will set the pace for the next round. For more field-tested breakdowns like this, subscribe to Military Force and stay ahead of the story.